So to be truthful with me, I come from a background of dysfunction. My household was very dysfunctional. So my dad was an alcoholic. We had a sexual predator in my household. There was a lot of sexual abuse going on, a lot of physical abuse going on. Absent parents, well, absent father in and out of my life. So me and my brothers went looking for father figures in gangsters, really, and we found them quite early. But yeah, my household was very dysfunctional, very unsafe, but could have been worse. Obviously, could have been better. But yeah, that was the start, really, of me going out into the world. When my parents got divorced at the age of 11, I was 11 years old, and that's when I really started going into criminality, and my life just spiraled out of control from there, really. Yeah. So all the boys in my family were getting physically abused. It was my sisters and the females in my family that were getting sexually abused. So I tried to assist and help my sisters when that was happening, but I was too small to have an effect, and I just got beaten up more for trying to help, and that just made me angry, and I grew up angry because I couldn't help and I felt helpless, plus I was being beaten every day as well, so getting hit every day and witnessing what I was witnessing just culminated in me just being an angry young person. I think it was when my parents got divorced at 11 years old, and it affected all of the children in different ways. I had sisters that were really, really brainy in school. When my parents got divorced, they dropped out of school and just, you know, crumbled, really. Whereas the boys, we turned rogue, really, you know, went out into the street and just took our anger out on the world, you know, hurt people, hurt people, which is what we done. We just went out there and we just started rising the food chain of criminality. With my father, it was brilliant. My dad was a man's man, Jamaican national, so was my mum, both Jamaican nationals. My mum was a nurse, my dad worked at Sunblessed, so they were at work quite a lot. I had a great relationship with both, but my mother, she had a tendency to hit the children quite often. You know, that's how she was raised in Jamaica. Within the black community, discipline and manners is something that's instilled in children from an early age. So my mum hit us quite often. Looking back, we probably deserved it, to be fair, especially the boys. But yeah, we got hit quite often, and that's another reason that made me angry too. I was being hit virtually every day. If it wasn't by the perpetrator, it was by my mother. So I was just angry, constantly angry, getting angrier by the day. And when they got divorced, it was just like, enough's enough. So my mum gave us the choice. I was only 11, so my dad moved to an estate in London. My mum stayed in Stevenage in Hertfordshire, but she gave us the choice of where we wanted to go, and I was a bit of a mummy's boy, to be fair. So I chose to stay with my mum, and my other brothers and sisters, some of them were quite older, so some stayed with mum, some went to London, and you know, I've got brothers and sisters all around the world, so we all got dispersed. My dad stayed in London, his side of the family, my dad's side of the family, we had aunties up in Leeds and in London, so he had sisters in London and Leeds up north, so he went to London to be closer to two of his sisters. I had a lot of cousins in London, on estates in London. I had one on Broadwater Farm, one on Ferry Lane Estate in Tottenham, quite notorious estates in North London. So yeah. Do you know what? I was a bit of a nerd. Even now, if I'm not at work, I'm in the library. I always like to study. You know, I went to university twice. I like studying. So I was, despite all the skullduggery that I was into, all the criminality and all the stupidity, I was okay at school. I was still studying and going to school and doing the study stuff. I was still doing it. So that it didn't get in the way of what I had to do at school. I liked school. I didn't skive. I'm a bit of a nerd, to be fair. Education, my dad taught me early, you know, education's important and no one can take your knowledge. And coming from a foreign country to here, he taught me early, get wise, study, because you're going to need to have that to fall back on. And and I pressed in, and I still do now. After my mum and dad got divorced, I think something snapped in all of us. But for me, I stopped letting people hit me without me hitting them back. That's when I decided that enough was enough, and I was going to start inflicting some pain on other people. So I went out onto the street, built my crew, and just rose the food chain of criminality. Certain crime families in London saw that we had no fear, which we didn't. Most of the people that I was with at that time in my life, we were like a pack of wolves. We all came from dysfunctional families and houses, home lives. So we lost a lot very early. So if you come up against anyone, Amy, that has nothing to lose, as we didn't, you're in trouble, because they're going to be very dangerous. We were dangerous. We had no fear of nobody. We didn't care who you were, who you knew, who you rolled with. We had lost so much already that there was nothing you could do to us apart from take our lives that you could do to us. So we had no fear. And then we got noticed by crime families in London. They used us to do their dirty work because we were young. So they saw we had no fear. And looking back, I say we got exploited a bit, but we were quite willing to do the bidding that they wanted to get done.
And then did you came back home?
I came back to my mum. At that time, I was in between Tottenham and Stevenage. In between, my mum always let me go and see my dad. My mum never spoke bad of my dad ever, which is one thing I love her for. Even though they divorced, she still loved him, and she never spoke bad of my father, and she always let us go and see him. We could always go back and forth. So as soon as I could get on the train, I'd be in London with my dad. Back with my mum, I was going back and forth, but I spent a good portion of time with my dad in London, where I was doing a lot of stuff that wasn't really favourable.
Stopped you, like, what are you doing now? Did he ever ask you to stop and go back to school and stuff?
There was only so much he could do. He tried. He did try, but my dad had to let us learn for ourselves life. He spoke to us, he sat us down and showed us what would happen. We didn't listen. He always said, your ears are too hard. And there's a Jamaican saying, if you can't hear, you must feel. And he let us feel, and we felt.
At that time, what was your brothers and sisters up to?
So some of my sisters went to America, some are in Jamaica, some are in Leeds, some are in Nottingham, some are in London. We're dispersed everywhere, all around the world. I think one might be in Canada as well. Yeah, to be fair, everywhere.
Did they never stop you?
They couldn't stop me. No one could stop me. No one could have stopped me. That was the way it was, and I liked it, to be fair. I was young, I had notoriety, I was seduced by the world, I had all the trappings of the world that I needed. The world seduced me at an early age. I had everything that I wanted at a very early age, and I was comfortable in that. I didn't really want to stop, to be fair.
How you got into criminality?
Well, as a young person, you look around, you see people that have a lot. When you come from a background of nothing, my parents done the best they could when they came here. I love my mum and dad. They taught me my work ethic, but there were times, that we didn't have a lot, and that's just the way it was. Sometimes I'd have to go to bed hungry. It's horrible going to bed with your belly rumbling. It's not nice. So they've done the best they could for us, but we didn't have a lot all the time. But I saw fast cash, fast money, a lot of trappings of the world, and I wanted my piece. And I went and got it. I was just angry. I was just hurt, angry, and for me it was just about, I think it was more about the notoriety for me. Other people might have preferred the money, but for me it was about the stature, about being known and having a name to get things done if I needed to get things done. we'd get things done.
Like your main business was? What were you guys doing and dealing with?
We'd dump their guns, collect money, sell drugs. Started off selling drugs first. As I got older, I started trafficking on a large scale. I was getting stuff from Moss Side and bringing it down south to distribute in London and Essex. But initially we were dumping the guns for the people that we were working for and collecting money as well. We didn't care about our lives at that stage. We didn't have nothing to lose. I'd be honest with you, I didn't even like myself. So if you had killed me at that time, you'd have been doing me a favour, because I didn't like myself. I didn't like what I was doing, but I was angry and I was just hurt because of what I'd gone through already. So I didn't have any fear of anything. So I just didn't care. I think for me, everything changed when I got to, I'd say about 18, 19, I became a drug addict. I think becoming a drug addict changed everything. That's when my life really spiraled out of control, and everything that all the fortune and wealth that I amassed from crime, I lost to my addiction. So I'd say around about 18, 19 was when it all changed for me, when I became a drug addict. I was a drug addict for 25 years. I was an alcoholic for 25 years. I was a drug addict for 25 years. I was gang affiliated for 25 years. Definitely, yeah. I was hooked on drugs for a long time. It's funny, when we first started selling drugs and stuff, I didn't even smoke then. I didn't take drugs. It was about the cash or just hurting people or whatever. But there's that saying, never get high on your own supply. And we had it around us all the time. And then we started touching it, and then we became addicted. I became addicted to ecstasy, weed, speed, crack cocaine, and then my life just spiraled out of control. I was completely hooked on everything, and yeah, I was a mess. My problem was I couldn't do moderation. So if I'd done anything, if I was fighting, if I was taking drugs, if I was drinking, I'd have to do a lot of it. There was no middle ground with me. It was either fully on or fully off. So if I was taking drugs, I was taking a lot of drugs. For instance, if I was going to a rave, if I didn't have 10 ecstasy tablets personal for myself to take, I wouldn't go out. I had to have a minimum of 10 for myself before I'd even think about going to a rave or something like that. I'd start from 10 upwards. I could eat. My tolerance for drugs was massive. So I was taking a lot of everything. Everything I took vast amounts of, and ended up getting into debt and stuff like that, which is what happens. Okay. I've been arrested a few times, don't get me wrong, but I've always escaped court. It's funny, my mum always packed 2 bags for me. They were the bags that if I got arrested and I knew I was going to be going to prison, I'd have to phone and say, "Mum, bring one of the bags down." They were always in my room, ready to go. Never needed them. I've never been to prison. A lot of my friends did. Some of them are still there now. A few died in prison. A lot of my old crew died from ODs or got murdered. But no, I've never been to prison. I haven't got a criminal record, and again, I'll say it's just by the grace of God that happened. Very fortunate, very, very fortunate. You know, bless them. I had 2 relationships in that time, and I loved the girls. If I'm honest, 2 5-year relationships, and I had to let both of them go because they deserved better. They loved me when they first got with me. They loved that they were Darren Gayle's girlfriend, but as they got older and they wanted to settle down and stuff, I wasn't ready. I couldn't stop doing what I was doing, and I let them go. Even though I loved them both, but they deserved to have a decent life and what they wanted, children, stability, a house and stuff, which I wasn't ready to give because I was out on the road doing stupidness. So relationships didn't work for me. Even though I had them, I love these 2 ladies. I think about them sometimes, even now. They've got children now, they've got the lives that they wanted, and I'm happy for them. Right girls, wrong time. I got to a stage during my drug taking, one of my closest friends was a guy called Dave King. He was a gangster. He got shot to death outside of a gym in Hoddesdon. At that time, he was the first person on the British mainland to get shot with armour-plated bullets. They just cut him in half, went for his Kevlar vest, basically just folded him in half. He got murdered, and I went into a bit of a depression there. And then some business acquaintances of mine, Tony Tucker and Pat Tate, they were called the Essex Boys. Would I say we were friends? Sort of. We made money together, more business acquaintances. They got shot to death in a Range Rover in Essex round about the same time as well. And I realised that sooner or later, because when you're in that world you make enemies, and we made enemies a lot, and I realised that sooner or later that would have been my fate. I would have died to my addiction, or I know I would have got murdered at some point like my friends did. And by that time I wanted to stop taking drugs because I was depressed from taking so much. My head was just mashed from taking so much drugs, and I was depressed that I couldn't stop. And I remember going home one night and I sat on my bed and I was just crying like a little baby because I was chasing my tail. I was trying to stop, couldn't stop. The longest I went without taking drugs for was 2 weeks, and then I was back at it again. But at that time I was ready to stop, but I couldn't do it. And I was so depressed, I tried to kill myself a couple of times. That didn't work, couldn't even get that right, because I was just depressed with my lifestyle. And then I remember going home one night and I sat on my bed and I was crying my eyes out like a little baby, and I just said, God, you know, if you're real, just please help me. I was crying. I'll never forget it. My mum came up and she was like, what's the matter? And I was just bawling on my mum because I wanted to stop but I couldn't do it. And then a gentleman called Tommy Jitterbo, he was the governor of King's Cross. He was a very dangerous individual in London back in the day. He ran King's Cross back in the day, and he knew a guy that lived near me called Shane. And Shane knew about Victory Outreach Recovery Home International, Victory Outreach International, which is a recovery home and a church. So if you go into the recovery home, you have to go to church as well. And he told Shane to come and get me, to take me to the recovery home. And then I remember when I was finally ready to go, I walked around my estate with my mum, smoked my last spliff, crying my eyes out because I knew I was going away. I didn't know what I was going into, but I knew that I had to try something because all my friends were going to prison or getting murdered or dying, ODing and stuff, and I wanted to change. So I went into Victory Outreach International in London, to change my life. It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, because I'll be honest with you, when I went into that recovery home, I didn't go in there to find God. I didn't know anything about God. I knew God was real. We were raised in church, so I knew there was a God, but I didn't know the power of God until I needed His help. And I went into that recovery home, and it was tough. It's discipline. It's called spiritual boot camp. It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I didn't know how to pray. I'd never read a Bible. We made rules, but I've now got into a place where I've got to follow rules, and I've got someone telling me I've got to get up at 5 in the morning and get down in the sanctuary and get my Bible out, someone that I could just squash. And you've got to come humble. The home just strips you. That's what it's meant to do. You go in there and it just breaks you down, because when you're out in the world, you build up walls around you to survive. But when you go into Victory Outreach Recovery Home, the walls have got to come down. God's got to get to you. So He's got to knock the walls down so He can do His work. And it was very, very difficult.
How did you came off drugs?
So the thing with Victory Outreach is you can't take any medication in there, so you got to go in and you just got to just go in cold turkey. You got to trust the Holy Spirit, you got to trust God to just heal you straight away. And he did. So I went into the recovery home, I said the sinner's prayer, and every addiction went straight away. Seriously, just like that. That's when I knew that God was real. I didn't cluck, no withdrawals, nothing. And you got to think, I've been bang at it for like 25 years, every day. And as soon as I said the sinner's prayer, and all my brothers in the home prayed for me, put hands on me and prayed for me, and my pastors prayed for me and stuff, it was gone. Straight away. I was healed straight away. So I think what we found in the home was that it was the guys that came in that were on methadone and heroin that suffered the most. Because as soon as they came off it, you know, they'd suffer, they'd poo themselves, and they suffered physically like that. But for the guys that were on uppers, no, I didn't. Seriously, I had no withdrawals. I didn't have one withdrawal. That's when I knew, for me, I knew God was real, because he took everything straight away. It was amazing. You got to think, after how I was and how I wanted to stop, and I wasn't clean. I couldn't get clean myself. That's why I knew he was real, because every addiction that I had, it went straight away, and I felt okay. Seriously. You might not believe me, people watching this might not believe me, but I am telling you, God healed me straight away of every addiction that I had. That's when I knew that I had to follow him, and that I had to give my life to him. I had to, because I wanted to stop, but I knew I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. I take no credit for the change of my life, because I know I couldn't do it.
What was your daily routine? What were you guys doing there?
But yeah, we had to get up at 5 in the sanctuary, read our Bibles a half hour, then we'd have to praise and worship, so we'd have to sing, worship and praise, and then we had to go into an hour of prayer, put on prayer music, and then we'd all have to pray in the sanctuary, all of us, and then we started our daily chores. So we all had to do chores in the house, and then if we wanted to go out, we had to go out with a chaperone. We weren't allowed any money. We weren't allowed to go out on our own. We had to have a chaperone with us if we wanted to go out, if we were allowed out. And then if we wanted to go shopping or something, we had a budget that we had to stick. We couldn't have money. We had to get the money given to us. And if we went shopping, we weren't allowed to shop over, I think it was £30 at the time. And we had to bring back receipts, and they had to check all of our receipts. Basically, we got stripped of everything, Emmy. We got stripped of absolutely everything. We had to be in bed by, I think it was 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. Every night we had to be in bed really, really early. We had to go out and do stuff for people in the church. So we were the backbone of the church. We'd go and clean the church, or we'd go and cut the grass for a congregation in the church. Basically, we were sort of like slaves. My pastor wouldn't, no, sorry, pastor. No, we had to serve. We learnt to serve early. We were just serving people in the church. Our day was about service, so we prayed like twice for 2 hours every day. Then we had Bible studies throughout the day, where we'd have to sit around in a circle and read scriptures and get understanding of what we were reading, because I didn't know what I was reading. I was reading the Bible. I didn't know what was going on in there. I didn't know nothing about the Bible, but I had to learn how to read the Bible and get understanding. So we'd have teachers coming in to work with us and teach us, and yeah, it was hard. It was hardcore. It was hard. It was so difficult. Plus, there were some people in there that I was having problems with on the street. There was places like, because Tottenham and Hackney didn't get on, so there was people in there from Hackney. So even though we were trying to follow God, we still had to worry about street rivalries in the home, because different factions. It was quite hard. It's not a prison, and you get told when you go in there, there's the front door. If you want to leave, you leave. But if you leave, you know what you're going back to. The amount of times that I packed my bags during the night, because it was so difficult, and I was always on discipline. I was constantly on discipline. So I pack my bag, get to the door, leaving, and then I've opened the door and I'm thinking, I don't want to be here because it's so tough, but what am I going back to? I'm going back to addiction and crime and and I go and put my bag down. My home director would wake up, catch me, then I'd get more discipline. I wasn't allowed to any letters in, any phone calls out. I got put on discipline, so I wasn't allowed any outside contact. My pastor would give me, he'd say, get a Bible. I'd get a Bible, open it, he'd say, pick a scripture. I'd pick a scripture out and he'd make me write it 2,000 times. So when we had recreational time where they could watch maybe a film or something, I'd have to sit at a table and write the scripture out on my own, no talking, because I was difficult. It took me a long time to settle down. You know, it's tough in there. I'm not going to lie. It's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. But I needed it tough to make that change. But I spent a little bit of time in America. We do something in Victory Outreach called World Conference and Mighty Men of Valor, where we go out to America and we have big conferences. All the men, because we've got ministries all around the world, and we'll all get together in America at the Staples Center and have a big conference. So my pastor allowed me the opportunity to spend some time in one of the recovery homes in America, which was nice. So I spent some time in a home in America, spent some time in a home in Birmingham. I've done 2 years in Birmingham, and then I came back to London and I graduated. So yeah, I spent a lot of time around the ministries around the world, but I graduated in the home in London. And I graduated on stage, got my certificate, everything, and then I came home. I got to spend time with my mother. You know, I came home and she just, I'll never forget, I came home and I knocked on the door and she opened it and she just cried her eyes out. She said, after 30 odd years, whatever, I finally got my son back. You know, she said she'd been praying for me every day. And it was surreal. It was so nice. I had three good years with my mum before she passed. My dad died when I was in my first year in recovery. So he died when I was in a recovery home. But my mum died 3 years after I came home. So I got 3 years of me spending time with my mum, normal. We spoke about the past, the hitting and just everything, and formed a really good relationship. I could pay some of her bills. For me to give back to my mum was amazing. You know, it was lovely. It was surreal. I spent 3 wonderful years with my mum before she passed. I feel robbed, if I'm honest, because I only got 3 years with her. But I'm just grateful she got to see me changed and godly, and she saw me as a man of God finally, which was amazing. Absolutely amazing. It was fantastic. Lords came to my church recruiting. Lords cricket ground in London came to my church they were recruiting for security guards, and my pastor asked me if I wanted to go to Lords to do security. I didn't know anything about security, so I was kind of apprehensive, and I said, Pastor, look, what do I know about security? He said, go. So I went to the interview, and went through 4 different stages of assessments and interviews and stuff, and I got in and just started doing security. I'd already gone to college to do TV and video production, which I passed. So I went into media as well. That was graduating behind the camera, and then later on I went to drama school, so I can work behind the camera and in front of the camera, so I can do both, which is pretty cool, which is what I love. I love media. Media's my thing. But yeah, I went into security at Lord's Cricket Ground. I'm still there today after, that's like 8, coming up to 9 years nearly. Once I'd been home, I'd been home about 3 years, and I thought, I went back to Tottenham real quick to see some friends. I thought, let me just quickly go check and see what the guys are up to. And I saw some of them, and they were smoking and doing their thing, and some of them were smoking. I said, just give me a puff on that. And they was like, oh, we thought you didn't do that sort of stuff now. Some of them are happy for me that I changed. Some of them thought that I thought I was better than them, so they shunned me. I prayed for some of them and they just broke into tears because they were still doing the same stuff that I was doing before I went away. Some of them said to me blatantly, look, we don't believe in God, but we know who you were before you went away, and you've obviously changed now. You're not the same person, so there's got to be something. And I was quite happy with that. But I smoked two puffs on a joint, and I was so ill. It made me paranoid. I felt sick, and just didn't agree with me. It really didn't agree with me. When God took everything, he took everything, and nah. It's once you've tasted the goodness of God, and then you go back to the world to try worldly stuff that you done before. There's a scripture. It says, "Returning to your folly is like a dog returning to its vomit," and that's what it's like. It's not the same, because you're not the same. I'm going to be honest with you, because right now the devil don't want me to. He wants me to keep this secret, but I'm going to reveal this to the world right now on camera, because this is where God gets the glory. I tried coke a couple of times when I came home, like after about 5 years or something, not as a thing to get back into it, but I just thought, let me just try the odd line, let me just see. And I'm telling you, it's horrible. And I've just told that to the world, because I want people to understand that once God saves you and changes your life, going back is not an option. It don't work. Doing the coke made me feel ill again, like smoking that spliff. You're not the same person. It's not going to have the same effects. You're wasting your time. It's like going back to your own vomit. You can't do it. Once it's done, it's done. So just leave it in the past. It's over. That life is in the grave. It's done. Before I went into the recovery home, I buried 2 guns, about 2,000 ecstasy tablets, and about 3 grand in cash. I hope the worms have eaten it, because I'm not going back to it. I know where it is. It was near my mum's house. I buried it in a park near my mum's. Even when I've been short on money since I've come home, I've still not gone to touch it. It's probably rotted in the ground by now, but no, once it's done, it's done. I'm not tempted to go back to worldly stuff at all, because I know how lucky I am to have got a second chance. Seriously, hear me, my life was over before I went into the recovery home. I was busted, as my pastor said, I was busted, disgusted, and I couldn't be trusted. Every door in my life was closed. I'd ruined everything in my life. My life was absolutely done. And I wanted to change my life. I've got the chance to change my life. God changed my life. And I've got my life back, which I didn't expect. And I'm not going back. I can't go back. How can I go back to that when I know where I was before, and I know that I couldn't have got out of that? He's given me another chance to make a difference. Now I work with gang members. I work with people that were like me before I went in. I'm working with some gang members from Handsworth in Birmingham. I was my pastor's armour bearer in church. You know, I worked in the homes, teaching guys how to read the Bible, how to pray. You know, come on. Why would I want to go back to that when I've got this? Life's good. I'm blessed. I'd say to anyone that's young and in that lifestyle, it's not the way. It's really not the way, because you're going to suffer. Don't go through what I went through. Seek God. I know not everybody's into God. I didn't want to know God when I was in the thick of it. I understand that. But what you need to do is find a mentor or positive role models. I didn't have positive role models. All I saw around me was crime. So I just followed what I knew. I didn't know anything else. So I followed the examples of my brothers My dad was good. My dad wasn't into crime and stuff like that. He was just an alcoholic, that's all. Funny drunk. My dad was a funny drunk. He wasn't violent or anything like that. My dad was a funny man. He was a man's man, a funny man. But I didn't have any positive role models, anything positive to look at, to show me a different direction. So I followed what I knew. If you don't know any different, what are you meant to do? So I'd say to any kids that are in that sort of lifestyle that's negative, look for a mentor, look for positive role models, someone that can show you a different path. Just get around people, try and find a good family. I just wanted to belong somewhere. It's about belonging. Try and join a football team or something where you can do something positive around positive people. Football or some sort of club or activity or something, you know.
So what's next now? What's the next chapter of life?
I just leave it to God. I just pray. I seek God daily. I'm up 2-3 o'clock in the morning on my face before God every day. I don't plan my life. God dictates my life. He orders my steps. Whatever he wants me to do, I will do. I'll be obedient and do. I know what I want, but I leave him to tell me what to do. I don't make a decision in my life without praying about it first. He has to show me the direction to go in. I know what I'd like, but his plan for me is always going to be better than any plan that I'll ever have for myself. And I trust him. I trust him with every area of my life. My life's not my own. I'm here to serve him and his people. My job is to just be a blessing to others and a servant to others. Not a slave, a servant. That's it. I'm here to serve him. Whatever he tells me to do, I'll do. Wherever he wants me to go, I'll go. I'll be obedient to whatever he wants. You know, I'm lucky. I'm so blessed. God is so good.